If this is my last day on this earth, I'll say I sang, I'll say I sang, I'll say I sang for all that it was worth. If this is my last day on earth, please rise in body or in spirit and give this a try. If this is my last day on this earth, I'll say I sang. Now, sang is the word that's going to change each time, but first verse it's I'll say I sang, I'll say I sang. I'll say I sang for all that it was worth, if this is my last day on earth. Most important verse in the whole song, I'll say I loved. If this is my last day on this earth, I'll say I loved. I'll say I loved, I'll say I loved for all that it was worth. If this is my last day on earth, I took one step, I climbed a hill, I said I won't, and I said I will. I'll say I lived for all that it was worth. If this is my last day on earth, if this is my last day on earth, if this is my last day on earth. Thanks for singing.
Our chalice lighting this morning was written by Marjorie Montgomery. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. We are delighted to welcome back our guest preacher this morning, the Reverend Fred Small, a Unitarian Universalist pastor, singer-songwriter, and former environmental lawyer. Reverend Small serves as Minister for Climate Justice at the Arlington Street Church in Boston. During this morning's worship, we'll be singing Everything Possible, Fred's lullaby of unconditional love and inclusion. A picture book edition of Fred's song will be available for sale after the service, and Fred will be glad to inscribe your copy. If you're joining us remotely this morning, you can find Everything Possible at your local bookstore or online at nosy.crow.us.
I wrote this song years ago when I was on tour as a folk singer. Visited my friend Janet Peterson in Seattle, and Janet then as now was one of a feminist quartet called Motherlode, and we had tea in her house, and she told me how she and her wife were having trouble because their son, who was 9 years old, was coming home from school, and he would be discouraged and confused because, you know, at 9, all the other kids, the boys especially, were trying to tell him what being a boy was all about, and the things you couldn't do, and the things you could do, and the things you had to do, and he just wanted to be himself. And so Janet asked me, could you write a song that I could sing to him to let him know that he has all kinds of choices about the kind of person he wants to be. Now, maybe she asked every songwriter passing through Seattle, but I took her up on it. We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved. Wash the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
I Go Down to the Shore by Mary Oliver. I go down to the shore in the morning, and depending on the hour, the waves are rolling in or moving out. And I say, oh, I am miserable. What should I do? And the sea says in its lovely voice, excuse me, I have work to do.
We are grounded and guided by the spark of a spirit we carry inside. Grounded and guided by our beautiful bodies of power and pride, by the blazing chorus of those who came before us. These are our grounds and our guide. These are our ground and our guide.
So, I have a confession to make. The word joy has always made me nervous. It's always struck me as kind of over the top, a bright yellow smiley face stuck desperately and unconvincingly on the tragic mask of a suffering world. It's brought to mind Tiny Tim, not the adorable moppet of A Christmas Carol, but the novelty singer of the 1960s. Hair all astraggle, crooning tiptoe through the tulips in his teeth-rattling falsetto. And for me, somehow it's always seemed to carry more than a whiff of obligation, as if it were my spiritual and even religious duty to feel cheerful and peppy in willful disregard of the plain evidence before my eyes. It didn't help that as a young folk singer in the 1980s, I had a stressful encounter with an only slightly older adult nicknamed TJ, which stood, she explained, for total joy. TJ was the wife of the producer of my concert, and since neither they nor I could afford a hotel, I stayed overnight in their home. True to her nickname, TJ greeted me enthusiastically with a bright smile. Now, I wish I could remember what provoked her, but somehow during my brief overnight stay, despite my best efforts to be a good guest, something I did, whether by omission or commission, irked TJ mightily. And before I departed the next morning, she unloaded upon me a fury of criticism and reproach. Now, maybe I deserved it. I was young and could certainly have been inconsiderate or self-centered. But the vehemence of her rancor left me a mite suspicious about the total joy thing. Fortunately, I overcame the temptation to suggest that perhaps a more suitable nickname might be PJ, for partial joy, or even FJ, for fake joy. Anyway, I resisted joy for a long time. But In the last couple of years, under the cumulative weight of global pandemic, accelerating climate change, systemic racism, creeping fascism, and all the other afflictions I need not catalog further, I felt the stirrings of a summons to joy. In my 7 decades or so on this planet, I've always been a fairly positive, upbeat person endowed by grace or genetics with a positive emotional buoyancy that has not escaped discouragement but has averted melancholy. But I fear the coming decades will bring challenges unprecedented in human history. Challenges physical, social, ecological, and spiritual. I was tired of giving away my happiness, my peace of mind, my life energy to the climate crisis and other things which my urgent activism might be able to influence in some tiny way, but obviously not control. My effort to remain positive was already exhausting. I began to doubt if my upbeat disposition and my toolkit of spiritual practices would be adequate to sustain me in the trying times to come. So I enrolled in a 5-month, 10-session online course called Awakening Joy, taught by mindfulness teacher James Barris. The website promised the program would help me, quote, open to life with appreciation, resilience, and an open heart. Incline the mind towards well-being, it invited, and gain deeper insight that will promote authentic joy. Incline the mind. I like that. It sounded doable. No guarantees, no artifice of affect required. Simply an intention followed by action. While still skeptical of joy, I figured I could incline my mind in its direction. And I did. I was relieved that Barras immediately addressed the problem of the word joy. If the word joy is a stretch or a turnoff, he advised, see if there's another word that resonates more for you. Well-being, contentment, delight, happiness, aliveness, and substitute that word whenever you see or hear joy. Great, I thought. Well-being works for me. Barras also anticipated my unease at even considering joy in the face of so much suffering. Remember, he said, your anger, sadness, and fear are contagious, and so are compassion, calm, and joy. Others are affected by the energy we put out into the world. I remembered that joy and suffering are not contradictions, but companions. Joy and woe are woven fine, declared the mystic poet William Blake. We can feel a great sadness for our broken world, writes Unitarian Universalist psychologist and activist Mary Pfeiffer, yet still taste the spring strawberries or enjoy the smell of rain. Our hearts shatter into pieces, yet we hear the song of the cardinal and watch the exploding electricity of the thunderstorm. Joy is not a luxury of privilege. In the words of Black feminist Toy Derricott, joy is an act of resistance. Activists Akaya Winwood and Rajasvani Bansali explain reclaiming joy is transgressive. It allows us to step beyond the limits of rigid socialization and transactional habits. Joy is dangerous. It is a threat to systems of control and power over. Tracy Michael Lewis Gigetz, author of Black Joy, says, "I know that my joy stands defiant in the faces of those who try to dehumanize me. I know that my joy makes my oppressor big mad. Because more than stealing our rights, stealing our joy is their greatest, albeit subtlest, evil. Ensuring that we can't access our joy or that we have a fear or guilt around expressing it is probably the most insidious form white supremacy takes. Black joy is a kind of currency, and when we learn to spend it recklessly, the results are glorious." As my Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley puts it, when you're drinking from this fire hose of insult and assault, when they've been coming for our democracy, our health care, our humanity, our planet, our civil rights, our very peace of mind, we cannot give them our joy too. Now, it turns out Emma Goldman never actually said, "If I can't dance, I don't want to be in your revolution." Which is really too bad, because how cool is that? But I would take it one step further. If we do not dance, the revolution will never come. Besides dancing, how do we cultivate joy? The first step, says Barris, is to form an intention. Even though we all want to be happy, he points out, many of us don't put this at the center of our lives. The most important thing, he says, is simply deciding to incline your mind, that phrase again, in the direction of greater well-being and keeping that intention in your consciousness. Then you make a heartfelt decision to do what you can to bring it about. Now, that seemed kind of obvious, but it made me realize how hopeless I actually felt about joy. I didn't think joy was possible. And if I didn't think it was possible, how could I ever experience it? So I formed an intention, a blessing to myself, in ascending order of ambition. May I be aware of well-being. May I be open to joy. May I be a radiant source of peace, compassion, and loving kindness. It takes practice, Barris told us, to notice what's not wrong. When we have a toothache, my teacher Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, we know that not having a toothache is a wonderful thing. Yet when we don't have a toothache, we're still not happy. A non-toothache is very pleasant. Thich Nhat Hanh said, we must remember our non-toothache. Barris encouraged us to be alert for moments of well-being, when things were, for the moment, for us, not so bad, maybe even okay. When we noticed such a moment, he said, we shouldn't just acknowledge it, check it off our list, and return to our activity. He asked us to really let it in and be present to it for a full 15 seconds. Not so long, but as we know, we kind of get caught up in our busyness. 15 seconds can be a long time in the course of a busy day. And we should try to notice these moments of well-being, Barris said, 6 times a day. Well, I don't always make it to 6 times a day, but I still do it several times a day, and the practice has been transformative. When I acknowledge these moments of well-being, I also ask myself, could this be a moment of joy? Sometimes the answer is nope, not really. But sometimes, maybe when the sky is a particular shade of blue, or the leaves especially green, or the sweetness of life unmistakable, the answer is yeah, it is a moment of joy. Barris also invited us to make a list of things that bring us joy. My list turned out to be pretty long. It included reading, meditation, movies, running, swimming, kayaking, singing, preaching, and leading worship. Do these things more often, was Barra's brilliant suggestion. Do things that drain your joy less often. The more I place my attention on joy, the more I notice others doing the same thing. A couple of years ago, I had a chance to ask Joanna Macy a question during an online Buddhism and Ecology summit. Macy, who died recently at the age of 96, for many decades, she led and inspired movements for change. I know you practice active hope, as do I told her, but what are the feelings you're actually and honestly feeling these days? Without hesitation, she answered, I feel absolutely amazing. If I had ever known that this terrible situation for our planet, the threats to life on Earth was going to come, and my people, our people, each other, that we'd be faced by this, I would want so much to be there. I wouldn't want to miss it. This is my world. I love it deeply. It's a living planet. It's got incredible history. And I wouldn't ever want to miss this, what we're facing now. I feel from my own experience that a more intense love for life and readiness to risk everything for the sake of life will be born to us. And powers of valor and self-discipline and passion and attention to life itself are going to be born to us in new ways. And of course, it looks bleak. It always looks bleak before you have to grow something, a new capacity that's pushing us. This is a birthing time as well as a dying time. There are forces and capacities ready to birth inside each one of us if we keep our spunk and courage. My friend Margaret Bullitt Jonas, an Episcopal priest with a powerful vocation for creation care, preaches the joy in climate justice. Where's the joy? The joy, Margaret says, is in living with purpose, in getting up every morning with gratefulness that we have another day to serve the Lord of life. The joy is in knowing, amid the uncertainty and heartbreak of such a precarious time, that our decisions matter, our choices matter, and love matters most of all. Love is what brought us here. Love is why we're here. And love will welcome us home at our journey's end. My friends, I'm not optimistic about the future. I think we're in for a very tough go in the years and decades to come. I have faith in the power of love, but I do not have confidence that it will save us from our fear and folly in the time that we have. For myself, all I can promise is, whatever happens, I will show up with all the grace and courage and kindness and compassion and joy I can. Thousands of years ago, a Hebrew bard composed a psalm. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. There is a river. And you don't have to believe in God to know there is a river of love, of purpose, and of joy. And as the mountains crumble and the waters rise, we must find that river, dive deep, and let its living waters hold us, lift us up, and carry us home.